Welcome to Reminiscing, our Highline history, a radio show presenting the memories of our community in the Highline area at 106.5 LP FM, South King County. Listen to a new episode every week with your host, Roger Price. Ready for more stories?
Hi, I'm Roger Price, and today I'm here at the museum, Highline Heritage Museum, and I have two people that I'm going to interview for the program Reminiscing. But so my first interviewee and her sister is Patti Stewart Burgess and Joan Stewart Whitten. So they are long time Highline area residents, and Patti was also a teacher in Highline, and her sister was the head of the Highline parade and beauty pageant in Burien for many years in Burien. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they can fill us in on their growing up in White Center and Burien.
Well, Roger, I'll start because I remember more about White Center because we moved to Hazel Valley from White Center when I was probably
11 or 12.
11 or 12.
I was like 6.
So, we lived right down in White Center on 106th and 17th. We came in the 1930s, 1934 from Chicago when I was 2.
Wow.
So I've lived in the Highline area 90 years.
So you weren't far off of probably Roxbury and
the main drag through White Center.
16, yeah.
We were 17th on 106th.
Okay.
And then we moved to Hazel Valley, 130th, just off Ambom, to a farm, right?
Yeah, a whole acre.
So we had a house with a lot more room than our very tiny house in White Center. And we were a family of 6, and often our grandpa lived with us. So we needed more space.
Oh, sure. But actually, so Hazel Valley Elementary School, was that wasn't built at that time though, was it?
Actually, I started school not long after we moved, and I went to Lake Burien grade school
I transferred from White Center's Mount View to Burien.
Oh, okay, sure.
And then when I was in the 5th grade, Hazel Valley grade school was built. And I'll never forget that day. We went to Lake Burien grade school in the morning, and in the afternoon, they put those of us who were going to be going to Hazel Valley on a bus and took us over to the new school, and we were all crying to leave our friends. And so I was in the first class then to go through Hazel Valley, the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, and went to Puget Sound, the first class to go from 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Oh, you were the first class to go to Puget Sound, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And our daddy built Puget Sound Junior High School.
He did. The part of the entryway was glass blocks, and my dad laid those glass blocks. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. And that was probably around 1948 or 9, I believe. So,
Probably. I can remember one day when General, who was it, MacArthur? One of the
oh, yeah, I believe you're right. I think it was MacArthur came out here for
Yes, he did. He was returning home, and they brought him up First Avenue from the airport, and they allowed us kids to all go over to the window and see him drive by.
Yes, you're right. I've read things about, and I think he put a time capsule in at Alki Point or something like that. Yeah. Very cool. So
Bob Seeley was my 7th grade science teacher. And he, of course, later on became the principal of Highline and then the superintendent of the whole district.
oh, yes. But I don't know. I think Mr. Seeley was the principal when I was there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did the crying when they made me leave Mount View. I didn't want to go to Burien, but I found some of my best friends when I finally got there and enjoyed it. And went to Highline as they had the junior high with the high school, so we didn't go to a separate junior high.
Oh,
And
I think it was eighth through 12th at that time, wasn't it?
yeah, that's true. And I was a cheerleader in junior high school. That was fun. But mainly, I just loved going to Highline. We were the class of 1950. So we were the silver class. The first class was 25 years
Oh, yes.
earlier.
You're right. Yep. So
And they're going to have the 100th anniversary coming up and celebration, I think, planned. That will be next year at Highline High
that'll
School.
be a big affair, I'm sure. Because that's a
Here's a little side note. We have an older sister, Dottie, who lived in upstate New York for several years. She's passed away a few years ago. But the three of us, I was the youngest. We were like stair steps in height. We would dance, tap dance and character kind of dance and the hula. And during World War II, we were a part of a USO group that went to like Fort Lewis and Fort Lawton. And we went to, I think, Fort Worden, was that?
Yeah, we went to Navy bases as well on a crash boat. They took us up.
Yeah.
The Navy base on Whidbey Island.
To entertain. But one of the things we did then was they had a fundraiser for the financing part of at least Highline Memorial Football Field. And so we were a part of that event to raise some funds for part of the football field that Highline enjoys winning their football games at.
Oh, yes, Memorial Field.
Yeah. Fundraisers for my classmate designed the archway into the Memorial Field gymnastic.
Oh,
He
sure.
designed that. And
it's honoring World War II, I believe.
Right. It was a memorial stadium for them.
Yeah.
And we were in on the fundraising part, doing our little dancing act.
Oh, oh, that was great. Yeah. Oh, that must have been a lot of fun.
So in White Center, we were raised on seafood on purpose because there was no money in the Depression for my father, the bricklayer, couldn't find work. So he had grown up in Alki, so he figured if he could get out of Chicago and get the family here, he could feed us. And we would hike down to Ceola Beach every day that we could, and the men would fish and dig clams, and we would play on the beach. It was great. And then we'd bring the food home and make clam chowder and have fish and crab and clams. It was heavenly. We didn't know we were poor because we had a supply of seafood.
I can remember Mom saying, I didn't think you kids would ever look a clam in the face after growing up and eating all that. But we all love seafood to this day.
Right.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that was a big event. It was fun to grow up in White Center area, going to the movie theater once in a while when you got a nickel. Roller skating at the now it's called the women's roller derby.
Oh, yes,
White Center, Rat City, right?
Roller derby.
Yeah,
the koi.
But I think one of the biggest stories of our ancestors in the area is our father. He built churches everywhere. He has built the round wall of the St. Elizabeth's right here in Burien, the brick wall. That's where his memorial was. And he built the Lutheran Church in White Center. He built churches all through West Seattle. But one of the most important things he did in the war was he was the head King County Sheriff deputy. These men in the community that weren't able to go to war joined together to be a law enforcement volunteers. And my dad was the captain of the volunteers and did actual police work at night after working all day. And there were a lot of local people. Some of them went on to be sheriffs, but they had training and they ran their own cars. They had sirens on them and everything. It was kind of embarrassing, though, as a child with your dad, with all these deputies coming in and out of the house and wanting to handcuff your boyfriends and do naughty tricks on you. But
Sure. Well, they depended a lot on volunteers back in those days, and
that's right.
They really did do a lot for the community in those times too.
Right.
So that was quite and not that they
I
didn't have
have a lot of photographs of that whole crew that I hope you have copies of here at the museum. You should have all those volunteers.
Yeah.
Oh, those would be interesting to look at sometime, and maybe even have a exhibit someday to display.
And then the youngest of our family was our brother, who turned out to be a real King County sheriff, Mick Stewart. And so he had a career in the sheriff's department.
Oh, was he in the South End or
Yeah.
Oh.
He was, and then he ended up working in the courts more. I'm not sure what position he had statewide, but if you want to go back really far in my father's family life growing up on Alki, they were on the front page of the PI, I think it was, because the hill, Sunset Hill from West Seattle, came sliding down and smashed their house when the family was inside sleeping. And so the newspaper did quite a story on how they were rescued or hurt. And the mother had a premonition that the slide was going to happen and made the family sleep out on the sun porch so that they were saved from being squashed to death, although part of the house came down on her and she was shielding her youngest child at the time. So it was a big article in the PI about the family.
Oh boy. Oh, that was fortunate they all were okay.
Yeah. But that's a really old story, like from the teens. The biggest snowstorm Seattle ever had, I think, is what it was.
Oh, sure. Yeah, they used to get some real bad winters back in those days too. So yeah.
The coldest winter in my history was 1950 here in our area. Schools closed. Nobody had electricity. We were all out playing in the snow. And it went on and on. If you look at the weather history, you'll see the winter of 1950, January to February, was the coldest ever. And we don't do cold here very well.
Oh, no, we're not used to the real cold weather. But I think I read something in the Highline Times about exactly what you're talking about. That was a very cold winter here in Burien.
Our mother was so proud to have a trash burner on the side of her electric stove, and she cooked for the whole neighborhood, big pots of soup and chili and beans and things, because she could cook on the wood stove.
Oh, uh-huh.
And yeah, it was a strange time. Do you remember it, Joni?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an interesting fact here too, family wise. I think there's at least some instances, 4 generations of our kids and their kids and their kids are all Highline High School graduates.
Yeah.
And it was fun. A few years, one of their grandparents was the secretary to the principal, so we had grandma in the office and all the kids as students. So
Yeah.
we're proud Highline Pirates.
Oh,
You bet.
yeah. Well, that's good. We all are. Yeah, that was fun. So, Patty, you eventually went into teaching, though. When you
Yes, and I taught at Glacier High School first. And then I don't know. Oh, I know I had a sabbatical. So then when I got back, I got a job at Highline High School. And then I went and taught in China, and I had another opportunity to teach at the alternative high school in the district, and that was interesting too. So I taught at 3 schools in the district.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Glacier opened in 1960. And
Uh-huh.
so
So
then you went on
yeah.
to alternative and then Highline too. So what time, what years were you actually at Highline?
Oh, you gotta work on years.
Oh,
Oh,
well, I just,
okay, I've got it. I got it. 1975
oh,
to 1984.
oh, you were there
Because
quite a while.
I came, yes, the year my one of my kids graduated. After his graduation, and I started that fall,
Oh,
and then I went to China in '84. So um, when I came back, I couldn't get the job at Highline back, so I went to the alternative high school, and that was interesting.
oh, sure. What was that?
And in the meantime, my sister was very involved with lots of students in the area because she was the head of the Miss Burien pageant for how many years?
About 34, 35.
Sheesh.
Whoa, yeah.
Part of that time, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce in Burien. I also was an owner of a business in Burien, a beauty salon called Joseph Hair Fashions. I had lived in New York for a few years and went to beauty school back there and missed my Seattle Burien home, cried every day, take me home. I finally came back home and we were in business for many years here. But I wanted to say too that my graduating class from Highline was 1955, and that was the last year Highline was the only high school. So my graduating class was 530 some odd kids.
Oh, sure.
And the next year Evergreen opened, and then in subsequent years the other schools did as well. So it was really neat growing up with all the teenagers your own age in the whole area, because we all went to the one school.
Yeah. This school was so crowded, though. They had one-way traffic in the halls.
It did.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you were going from this classroom to the one right next door, if it was the wrong direction, you had to go all the way around and come back. It was one-way traffic, or it would have been a mess. Yeah.
And I think they even also had split shifts there for a while at Highline. I'm not sure. It was,
Yeah, I don't remember that part, but
it was, yeah, it might have been even after you graduated. I'm not sure, but it seems like
yeah.
it might have been 56 or 57. And then when Mount Rainier came along and Glacier, it kind of took a lot of the pressure off and it got back to a more normal size. But it was so
Right.
big at one time.
One little interesting fact aside, Patti mentioned that I was involved in the Miss Burien organization, which is a part of the Miss America organization, which is the largest scholarship foundation for women in the world. And it's 100%, it was 100%, still is today, volunteers. And the Miss Burien organization was one of the largest, and for a period of time was the largest, especially in scholarships given in the whole state.
Wow.
We
That's
had the most,
nice.
we had the most girls go on and win that competition as Miss Washington and went on to Miss America.
Wow, that's really great. I remember a couple of gals from my class, Vicky Gimmel. She was
Sure.
she was actually Miss Wisberger at the time before it became Huckleberries. But yeah, she was Miss Wisberger, and then uh, what was the other one? Chris Anderson, I think. Yeah, she was also Miss Beard, but the year before. So
Yeah.
No, Kristen Anderson, right?
yeah,
Well,
Kristen Anderson.
also, yeah. It's interesting because just this past week, I received a phone call from a young woman who was Miss Burien and she celebrated, and she went on to become Miss Washington when the young lady that actually had won that program resigned. She went in and became Miss Washington as first runner-up 50 years ago. And she got in touch with me and we had the most wonderful conversation. And there, she's going to be honored this coming month, in a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, at Miss Washington for 50 years of her service. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of scholarship, even though I left Highline and my kids all left Highline, my kids and I have been involved in the Highline High School Alumni Foundation, getting money for kids at Highline. And this year, we really did a lot. There were 25 kids who received $95,000 total in scholarships last week. And we started in 1995 with one $500 scholarship. So in that short period of time, that $500 scholarship, by the way, unanimously was for Harry Lemon. And everyone knew that name for
Sure.
many years in the Highline District, not just because he taught music and botany there. He taught all the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in the woods. He was a botanist. And then he went and taught up at the Camp Waskowitz after he retired. So a lot of little kids that wouldn't have known him in high school knew him in the Waskowitz program. So he introduced himself every year up there at Waskowitz. He says, you young people have always heard of a fuzzy peach, but I bet you've never heard of a hairy lemon.
Yeah, that was the saying. It's still
And
used today. Oh yeah.
yeah.
No,
So our first scholarship was in his honor. And it's gone from there. Many families have come forth to sponsor scholarship for a teacher or for a special purpose. And Harry Lemons is for community involvement, because that's how he was.
uh-huh.
So
Yeah, I know. I read stories that he was very involved in Camp Waskowitz when it first got started. So
yeah,
he was quite a contributor. And
yeah.
I've also participated in the Highline Alumni Golf Tournament, which is coming up again in August. But
Right.
that's
That's our major fundraiser, along with the alums who are very generous in
uh-huh.
donating money. Highline alums are unlike any, it's the only school in the district that has an alumni foundation to
Wow.
itself. And it's pretty amazing that it's developed so well.
Yeah, and it's so many kids through start into college. It's fantastic that
Right.
this alumni can to help out in that way. So yeah, that's great that you guys are so involved in it too. You and your daughters and stuff. So that's great. Thanks a lot for doing that. That's very nice. So then yeah, you were teacher, and then you're also involved in I think other activities, both you and Joni. So, but Miss Burien was a big event, and the Highline Times used to do a lot of with all that stuff. I know Tim
Oh,
Robinson was involved in all that, so
yeah.
it's good to have that. And they've kind of gone to more of it's not a printed out newspaper anymore, but so we kind
No,
of
I can remember, in fact, on our way over to this meeting, was talking about remembering going in and sitting down and talking with Reed in the middle of the day. And he'd say, okay, well, Joan, what do you have for me for the paper this week?
oh,
And it was always about Miss Burien, of course.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was, it was quite a bit. The community supported it so much. And when you mentioned someone was known as Miss Witzberger, that's how part of the way that we raised the money for the scholarships. Businesses would sponsor a young lady, and she would be Miss Wisberger or Miss Lamont or Miss Bells. It finally
uh-huh.
became
Yep.
they would be in the 4th of July parade, which was always our big deal, and they supported the program tremendously.
Yes, they sure did. And
Unfortunately, there is no longer a Miss Burien organization.
oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I know, yeah, even like Southgate Ford and all those different
yes,
businesses would sponsor a
yes,
gal for the Miss Burien
yes,
contest.
they did.
Oh, that was good stuff. Well, yes. What else is there from your past that you like, the short story or anything that you'd like to share, or uh, just playing pranks on your uh, siblings, or but
Oh,
it's
we never did that.
Oh, never. No.
oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
In White Center, to get the gang, you'd go on the top of the hill and yell, "Ole, ole, ole, it's a freak!"
Oh,
My older sister, could whistle so well that the gang on the way down to Ceola side would hear her whistle and come running, and we'd have kick the can gatherings and all kinds of street games. You know, it was in the Depression. You had to make your own fun.
uh-huh. And it
And
wasn't expensive either. It was just
oh
something
no,
you
free,
just dreamt up,
free.
kicked the can. I remember playing that in the alley and different things. That was so much fun.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Then my father, when we moved to the beach, I was fortunate enough to finally live at the beach because I love the beach. And my dad taught me a game for when I had Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. It's called Duck on a Rock. I guess it's what he learned when he grew up in Alki. Kind of dangerous, kids throwing big rocks at each other.
Yeah, oh yeah, that could be. I'm sure of that. Yeah, maybe a few
You
got
were
hit in the
throwing
head.
rocks
Uh,
to get a rock off of a rock, a duck on a rock. I don't know. It's kind of a goofy thing to play on the beach, but um, okay. My mom was the center of a lot of short
One-liners.
one-liners, we
oh,
call. We made a typed up list. I have them here. It's about 4 pages, single spaced, of her famous sayings.
I was just thinking,
Which your favorite one of yours? I love the one everyone knows.
well, when we,
Say it with me. A little lipstick,
oh, a little
a little lipstick, a little paint makes a girl
really
look
looks
like what she ain't.
A little powder, a little paint
Oh, powder paint. Yeah.
makes a girlie look like what she ain't.
Yeah.
As we gathered here earlier today, and I, in fact, just walked in the museum here, I remembered when this building was a grocery store. And as I sit here looking across the street, which I'm not sure what that building is now, it's kind of been through a few changes. I think it was an exercise place, and
Oh, yeah.
there's an ice cream place. That was a drugstore, and it
Right.
had a fountain. It had a soda fountain where we could sit
Oh,
and order ice cream
Oh,
and
yeah.
sodas and sandwiches. And it was called, I believe, Highline Pharmacy.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was a great spot. And this grocery store, I remember a scene I had here. I wanted to punch the manager. I had a child, I think it was my 4th. And you get slim right away. And I walked in to get some groceries, and he says, "Patty, haven't you had that kid yet?" Oh no. Oh
And then you didn't punch him?
no.
Yeah.
Okay, another remembrance is down further on 152nd from where we are here on M-Bomb. Bank of America and all those stores are there now. But when we grew up, where Bank of America is today was a field house and a little log cabin, which was our library. And the field house is where Highline High School had all their dances.
Yes.
And
Harry Lemon's wife ran the library.
she did. Was her name Margaret? I think it might have been
forgotten.
Margaret. Yeah.
Yeah.
But none of what we see today, almost none of, was there was as we grew up with as kids. It was Highline High School and then First Avenue, and there was a drive-in there. We'd go and have Coke and something after school. If somebody had a car, you all piled in the car and went up to the drive-in.
Oh, sure. That was, I think it was Dave's Drive-In on First Avenue.
Right. Yep, you're right. But growing up, that's where the old field house was. Of course, during the day, they'd have baseball games and things, but on the weekends, Highline High School had their dances there in the field house.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
wonderful way to grow up.
Yes, it was. It was fun. And yeah, well, you guys have given us a good lot of thoughts that was fun times back in those days.
Yeah.
And I can just tell from listening to you that your mom and dad really laid a good foundation for you.
Yes, they did.
They did that.
That's wonderful. But yeah, well, I really want to thank you for coming in and doing this. This is great. And
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
and if you think of something, we can do an interview and another interview on another more topics next time too. So
Okay.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.